So, I've been fitting Phonak new record-breaking Audeo Sphere Infinio hearing aids for a few months now. And you know what that means? Oh yes, it means review time. And you can guarantee that with any of my detailed reviews here on the Hearing Tracker YouTube channel, I won't simply be sharing the hyped up nonsense that each manufacturer spouts about their new hearing aid technology. But I'll also be delivering you my real-world, hands-on feedback from fitting them to more than 50 patients already. To add to that, I'll be sharing my patients' feedback too. Plus, I've been scanning Hearing Tracker's forums, Reddit, and Facebook for any common observations from anyone else that's been fitted with these hearing aids. So let's rock and roll. At the time of making this video, the Infinio is currently available in 3 different styles: the Audeo, Virto, and Cross. And within each of these styles, there are various models available too. So for example, whilst there is only one version of the Cross available, the Virtos are available as the Virto R, Virto NWO, and the Virto Titanium. Plus, there are 2 different Audeo Infinios available, from the standard Audeo Infinio to the Audeo Infinio Sphere, which is the subject of today's video. So the Audeo Sphere Infinio looks pretty similar to Phonak's previous model, the Audeo Lumity, specifically the Lumity Life. You'll notice the microphones have dual ports for both front and rear facing microphones, which allow the hearing aid to detect what's in front of you versus what's behind, and deliver the most appropriate sound for your individual listening environment, which I'll cover in great detail throughout this video. You'll see here that Phonak have stuck to their guns and maintained a rocker switch on the design, and I mention this because some manufacturers have recently moved away from this setup to a single push button option. In my opinion, this is a mistake because I find that some patients like the flexibility of being able to physically adjust their hearing aids by pressing the button as well as via their app. The button is a soft key and can be used to turn the hearing aids on and off, adjust the volume or programs, and answer or hang up phone calls. On top of that, Phonak have also stuck with their tap control feature, which allows you to access Siri or Google Assist or pick up or hang up phone calls, all with a double tap of your ear. Finally, you'll see here the receiver wire, which feeds energy and information to the speaker that sits inside your ear. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And when I say the elephant, I mean the concern that a few of you guys out there online had about these hearing aids being the size of a small baby elephant. And so, to put your minds at ease, I thought that it would be a good idea to show you what each style of Phonak Infinio hearing aid looks like. So starting with the titanium in-the-ear models, then moving on to the acrylic version, the rechargeable ITEs, the standard Infinios, and then the Infinio Sphere. I honestly no longer think that the size of these hearing aids is an issue anymore. My initial concern was that patients wouldn't like the look or feel of them. However, from the patients that I fitted with this technology, yes, 1 or 2 of them have commented on the size, but not one person has refused to wear them, even those of you out there wearing glasses. More importantly, as I run through exactly what these hearing aids are capable of doing and what Phonak have loaded into them, you'll appreciate why they're a little larger than their predecessors. And if I'm 100% honest with you, it's well worth taking up that extra space behind your ear. In my opinion, gone are the days when the manufacturers were racing to make the smallest possible hearing aid. Yes, smaller receiver in canal hearing aids do exist, but that does come at a cost when it comes to functionality. So the likes of Bluetooth connectivity or rechargeability, and overall functions around clarity and noise reduction capabilities. Now, at the same time, I don't want to sound dismissive, and if size is incredibly important to you, then you can always opt for the Phonak Audeo Infinio non-sphere model, which I have also had fantastic results with. But you will have to forgo some of the awesome features that I'm going to be covering today. As far as colours go, there is a wide selection available, including this sage green colour, which I've got to say I really like. They're all matted nowadays, so they don't tend to catch the light, and most of my patients go for a colour that matches their hair, with the most popular being champagne. Now, it's worth noting that there has been way more demand for the spheres than Phonak had originally anticipated. And as a result, Phonak have not only had to ration the numbers of the units available in each country, but they've also limited them to 4 colours to start off with, including champagne, silver grey, graphite grey, and sand beige. And I have it on good authority that when Phonak catch up with the demand, they'll exchange your hearing aid for a preferred colour, which I suspect, and this is just a guess, will be early on in 2025. Now, there are two details that you need to know when it comes to the batteries on these hearing aids. Firstly, that they're only available as a rechargeable hearing aid, and secondly, their battery performance. So starting with rechargeability, the Audeo Infinio Spheres are currently only available as a rechargeable hearing aid. And I gotta say that this shouldn't be an issue, as the majority of hearing aid users that I speak to now expect hearing aids to be rechargeable. But yes, I know there are a few of you out there that wouldn't want to give up batteries, as it's a nice safety net to have. And you only have to carry a packet of batteries around with you and not a hefty charger. What I will say, however, is that if you're delaying buying these hearing aids with the hope that one day they'll be available in a disposable battery version, don't hold your breath. Because whilst I can't be 100% certain on this, I am 99% sure that the Audeo Infinio Sphere will never be released in a disposable battery version. That was a brave statement to make, but I'm going to stick with it. With the computational power within these hearing aids and the energy that's needed to drive them, I just don't think that a Zinc Air battery will ever meet its needs. Now, that's not to say that the lesser spec Audeo Infinios won't come in a disposable battery version in the future, a little bit like we saw with the Phonak Lumity models previously. But it's worth noting it was a good couple of years after their initial release that we saw that. Moving on to battery performance. Back at the beginning of January 2024, I was invited to Switzerland for a sneak peek of this technology, way before they were released, and during a presentation, Phonak rather coyly asked how important it was that the batteries on these hearing aids lasted for a full day. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that there may be some pushback on this, and it got me a little bit worried about this new technology's battery life at the time. So, what does this mean based on the reality of the last few months with my patients wearing them? I have found that if the hearing aids are working in their AutoSense setting and adapting according to your environment, and you have a balanced lifestyle, then I am pleased to report that you will not have any issues with battery life. And I have not had one single patient reporting that these batteries haven't lasted them for a full day. The only situation where you may possibly have an issue is when their artificial intelligence spheric speech in loud noise mode is activated for extended periods of time. And this could potentially reduce the battery life to around 7 hours. Now, it's worth noting that I haven't either heard of nor personally had any patients reporting this being an issue, but I still wanted you guys watching this video to be aware of it. Now, fortunately, I am delighted to report that Phonak have implemented a couple of features to stop your hearing aids from prematurely dying. Firstly, your audiologist can limit the time that your hearing aids automatically engage their AI features to around 3 hours a day, which for the majority of hearing aid users shouldn't hinder their natural and normal listening experiences. And then secondly, if you have a manual program and your hearing aids are set to the spheric speech in loud noise mode, it displays an estimation on the app telling you how long the hearing aids will last in this mode. Both of these features are unique to Phonak, and I'm pleased to say that they've identified a potential issue and implemented ways to prevent it from causing issues with your daily hearing aid use. Hence me not having this be an issue with any of my hearing aid patients. While I'm on the subject of batteries, I should give the charger a mention too now. And Phonak have opted to go back to contact charging, as from my understanding, they've identified industry-wide issues with the reliability of inductive chargers when it came to warmer climates. And as a result, you'll notice 2 titanium pins on the bottom of these hearing aids that weren't on their previous Lumity Life model. When the hearing aids are dropped into the charger, you'll feel them pulled down securely with built-in magnets that ensure an effective connection is made. All I'll say is make sure that the bottom of this well is free of dust and debris, as it could potentially interfere with proper contact being made and stop the hearing aids from charging properly. I'm also pleased to share that whilst the charger is powered by a USB-C cable, surprisingly for its size, it also has a built-in battery, with Phonak quoting 3 days worth of life. However, I've had some patients reporting up to 5. When the hearing aids are on charge, the LED lights up in the center so you know that they're charging, and it utilizes a traffic light based system starting from red when the battery is running low through to amber and then green when they're full. It will take around 3 hours to fully charge these hearing aids, and the LED in the center of the charger also adopts the same principles to update you about its battery life too. As far as suitability goes, these are the fitting ranges for the spheres. So, whether you have a mild, moderate, severe, or profound hearing loss, the hearing aids can be adapted to your hearing by switching the power of the receiver between an S, M, P, or UP, or even their active vent technology. As well as changing the receiver, the way that these hearing aids are coupled to your ears can be personalized too, with a selection of medical-grade silicone domes to choose from, or various custom tips, such as Phonak Slim Tip, Seashells, or Active Vent that I mentioned before. Now, believe it or not, the tip on the end of your hearing aid is incredibly important, and all too often I see hearing aid users lost in online forums looking for guidance on the most appropriate tip for them. And if that's you, I feel incredibly sorry for you, as that's not your job, that's the job of your audiologist. Now, the wrong tip can completely transform the way that a hearing aid sounds, from how much clarity it provides, how well it copes in background noise, how good it sounds when you're streaming, and of course the comfort of the thing. And I will always personally try and put custom tips on as many ears as possible when they're appropriate for that particular individual. In a recent survey that I put out there on YouTube, 38% of you are fitted with open domes, 19% with closed domes, 8% with power domes, and 35% with custom tips. And I'm interested in you guys watching this video now. If you're already wearing hearing aids, what's your setup like? Do you have open, closed, power, or custom tips? Or maybe you've got active vent? Let me know in the comments beneath this video so I can tailor my videos to you going forwards. Now, for those of you out there unaware of Phonak's unique active vent receiver, I am delighted to share with you that it's compatible with Sphere. Now, the reason that it is so special is because of its built-in moving piston that changes its position depending on your listening environment and diverts either more or less sound naturally down your ear canal or, on the contrary, via your hearing aids. In turn, this can change how well you hear in noise, how clear your voice sounds, how clearly you hear, and also how music sounds when being streamed from your phone. And if you're wondering whether or not this matters, it does. Yes, it does. It matters a lot. And there are both positives and negatives to having your ear canals either open or closed. And depending on your hearing loss, sometimes it's beneficial to have a hearing aid that can do both on different occasions, which until this active vent was released by Phonak, it wasn't possible. For example, in a quiet environment, you might want the vent to be open, allowing natural sound in and out, giving you a nice natural feeling, connecting you with your environment. Yet when in noise, it's better to have your ears closed so that all of the sound that you hear is via your hearing aids, having been cleaned of background noise. The same thing goes for music and streaming, so when streaming from your phone, the active vent will close, both blocking sound in and blocking sound out, which enhances music, giving it a greater fullness and richness when being streamed from your phone. Now, having also fitted my fair share of Sphere patients with active vent, I can confirm that it does what it says on the tin and boosts their functioning and background noise even further still. And I'm going to go into a lot of detail on that sound quality shortly. Now, I've got to mention, at the same time as this being fantastic, one thing that it's important that you're aware of if you're considering this setup is that when the active vent both engages or disengages, i.e. it opens or closes, you will notice a perceivable clicking sound in your ears. And I found that most of my patients don't mind, as long as I've warned them beforehand, which I would do with everybody. However, there have been one or two that haven't been able to get used to it, so we've had to switch to standard ear molds instead. Now, from my perspective, I'd love to know if you've tried this setup and had the active vent receivers, how you've got along with them personally. So drop me a message in the comments beneath this video. Now, it's worth knowing that the Audeo Sphere Infinio is available in two different technology levels. Firstly, the 90, which is Phonak's premium technology level, and then the 70, which is their advanced model. And this table shows the difference between those two technology levels. Now, what every hearing aid manufacturer does, so this isn't just limited to Phonak, is create the best possible hearing aids that they can with the technology and the research and developments that are available at that moment in time, and brand that as their premium hearing aid, which in this instance is the Infinio Sphere 90. this hearing aid tends to have the most automation, the most clarity, and the best ability to cope in noisy situations. Phonak then have various technology levels beneath that with certain features that they've stripped away. And you do pay a little bit less for the lesser spec hearing aids, but again, it's down to you and your audiologist to work together and to identify which technology level is the most appropriate for you. Hey, Florence, can you do me a favor and can you push back my meetings for the rest of the day, please? Yeah, I know it's Dr. Cliff, but it'll have to wait. I've started the Audiosphere Infinio review, and there is so much that I need to talk about. Super. That's brilliant. Thank you. I think it's time I talked about sound quality, isn't it? Now, in these new hearing aids, Phonak have developed their AutoSense feature further still, which is one of my favorite adaptive programs out there that uses sophisticated algorithms to continuously analyze the acoustic environment around you and makes real-time adjustments to optimize the sound, clarity, and comfort. And so now they're on OS 6.0, which Phonak are boasting enhances speech understanding by 16% and reduces listening effort by up to 45%, with the hearing aids automatically categorizing your environment into 6 different listening situations, starting from speech in quiet, speech in noise, speech in loud noise, speech in car, comfort in noise, and music. All without you needing to switch over to manual programs at all. And from my point of view, the great thing about Phonak over and above any other hearing aid manufacturer is that as an audiologist, I have the ability to manually make adjustments to each of these acoustic scenarios to match my patient's needs. Working alongside its artificial intelligence, Phonak utilize accelerometers, also known as motion sensors, in their hearing aids. Now, this concept isn't in itself new, with Phonak first introducing motion sensors into their hearing aids way back in 2020. I honestly find the concept of motion sensors in hearing aids in itself incredibly fascinating, as it provides more information to the hearing aids when determining your listening environment, thus anticipating, in greater accuracy, your specific hearing needs in that situation. In practice, this means if you're sat down in a restaurant, you would normally want to hear the person that's speaking in front of you, and perhaps a little bit to the side too. However, as soon as you stand up and start walking, you would normally want to be able to hear the person by your side as you are walking along, as it's unlikely that you would have somebody in front of you walking backwards. And the motion sensors help the hearing aids to recognize this. It's pretty awesome, eh? Saying all of this, however, that's not quite my favorite sound quality update in these hearing aids. For years now, Phonak have had a form of offline AI built into their hearing aids in the form of machine learning, and this has essentially been used to help the hearing aids understand the type of acoustic environment that you are in and to adjust themselves accordingly. However, in this recent update, they followed the likes of Oticon and Starkey and introduced a deep neural network. But not only that, they've taken it one step further, with the Infinio Sphere being the world's first hearing aid to be powered by a dedicated real-time AI chip for speech from noise separation, with the main focus of these hearing aids being better understanding of speech in background noise. And if I hadn't heard how well they worked for myself, I wouldn't have believed it. But don't take my word for it, I've got some sound files to share with you later on in today's video. This artificial intelligence sets a new bar in terms of hearing in background noise, and at the heart of this innovation lies their new DeepSonic chip, which is a proprietary AI sound processing chip working alongside their brand new ERA chip. And I've got to say that whilst we've had step changes in developments of hearing aid technology over the last few years from each manufacturer, this is in fact a giant leap, providing dynamic, real-time adjustments to speech separation from background noise. And with 21 times more memory and 4 times more power efficiency, this leads to 53 times more processing power than any existing industry chip. All in all, from your point of view, this means that this hearing aid is capable of performing 7.7 billion operations per second. And it works. So what exactly does this deep neural network mean? Phonak are boasting that in total there are 4.5 million neural connections trained with over 22 million sound samples, so that this DeepSonic chip achieves an unparalleled improvement in signal-to-noise ratio by up to 10 decibels. Now, whilst 10 decibels doesn't sound like a huge number, in relative terms, honestly, it is massive, and essentially means that you're 3 times more likely to understand speech when you're in noise compared to any other manufacturer's hearing aids. In practical terms, every single person, yes, every patient that I fitted with these hearing aids has reported an improvement in both speech clarity and performance in noisy environments, such as a busy restaurant, for example. And that's whether they're new to hearing aids or if I've updated them from older tech from either Phonak or any other manufacturer out there too. However, don't just take my word for it. Do you want to hear some sound files demonstrating its effectiveness? You'll like what's coming next. Whilst Phonak's Audiological Research Centre found that this technology provides a 36.8% increase in speech understanding, 21% less user fatigue, and a 45% reduction in listening effort, I don't really care. Really, because quite wonderfully, none of it matters, because ultimately we now don't need to take the manufacturer's word for it on how effective their hearing aids are anymore. And why not? Because here at Hearing Tracker, we have teamed up with HearAdvisor, an independent hearing aid vetting lab, who have built a breathtaking audio lab that allows for the independent testing of all hearing aid technology. Now, the mastermind behind this is Dr. Steve Taddy, and for the first time ever, this setup allows for the comparison of hearing products using a standardized test battery. Now, why is this kind of testing important? Well, instead of relying on each manufacturer's testing, in which somehow they always manage to find a way of ranking themselves as number one with their own results, for the first time, it's now possible to compare each manufacturer reliably and independently, which is most important. So, I have 4 sound files to play for you today. One is Phonak's Quiet program in omnidirectional mode. The second is their speech in noise program, aka Stereo Zoom. The third, their spheric speech in loud noise mode, and it's on their default setting. And then finally, the spheric speech in noise mode, set to its maximum.
Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend.
Oh yeah? Perfect timing. Maybe I can finally get out there and do some yard work.
Yard work. My mind went to breaking out the grill.
Well, that too. The lawn isn't going to cut itself, and the bushes have gotten a little crazy.
I guess that's true. I mean, I've been putting off staining the deck, but this year may be the year.
Trees, bushes, deck. We'll just have to dream about the grill and the huge ice cold cooler.
Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend.
Oh yeah? Perfect timing. Maybe I can finally get out there and do some yard work.
Yard work? My mind went to breaking out the grill.
Well, that too. The lawn isn't going to cut itself, and the bushes have gotten a little crazy.
I guess that's true. I mean, I've been putting off staining the deck, but this year may be the year.
Trees, bushes, deck. We'll just have to dream about the grill and the huge ice cold cooler.
Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend.
Oh yeah? Perfect timing. Maybe I can finally get out there and do some yard work.
Yard work? My mind went to breaking out the grill.
Well, that too. The lawn isn't going to cut itself, and the bushes have gotten a little crazy.
I guess that's true. I mean, I've been putting off staining the deck, but this year may be the year.
Trees, bushes, deck. We'll just have to dream about the grill and the huge ice cold cooler.
Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend.
Oh yeah? Perfect timing. Maybe I can finally get out there and do some yard work.
Yard work? My mind went to breaking out the grill.
Well, that too. The lawn isn't going to cut itself, and the bushes have gotten a little crazy.
I guess that's true. I mean, I've been putting off staining the deck, but this year may be the year.
Trees, bushes, deck. We'll just have to dream about the grill and the huge ice cold cooler.
So tell me what you think. Are they worth the hype? Let me know in the comments if you believe that this kind of technology is exactly what you're hoping for in a hearing aid. And here's something else that you'll find interesting. This graph shows the work that Steve has done comparing each manufacturer's latest technology. And it's easy to see when all of the manufacturers are tested using the same strict criteria, Phonak come out well ahead for speech in noise performance. Phonak have always been pretty unique in their approach to connectivity, as they're the only manufacturers to use classic Bluetooth. which allows you to connect to any Bluetooth source, including smartphones, tablets, and computers. And this integration supports a wide range of audio codecs, ensuring high-quality audio streaming regardless of the source, and also supports dual streaming, allowing you to connect to multiple devices simultaneously, which isn't possible from any other manufacturer. In the Infinios, Phonak have improved the transmission power over their previous models, providing a more stable Bluetooth connection, which firstly ensures consistent audio quality and connectivity over longer distances, and secondly creates a lag-free transition when switching between different audio sources. And I've got to say, I haven't had any complaints with regards to connectivity since I've fitted them. On top of that, the Spheres also support hands-free calling, which is pretty limited with other hearing aid manufacturers, meaning that you can keep your phone in your pocket and the microphones on your hearing aids will pick up your voice to send to the person on the other end of the phone. In my opinion, Phonak have carried forward a legacy issue with this hands-free setup, and I have had 2 patients complain about this setup, and you'll know who you are because I know you watch these videos, out of everybody that I've fitted with this technology. Now, I think that it's great to have the ability to have hands-free phone calls, but the downside is that if you answer the phone in a particularly noisy environment, the person on the other end of the call may struggle to hear you. Now, I won't lie, this is an issue with all manufacturers. However, everybody else allows you to toggle it on and off. Now, I don't know if this will change when the LE Audio Auracast features are enabled down the line with a firmware update. So stay tuned and I will report on this as soon as I know any more. But what I do know is that there is a fix if you're an Apple user, which is to enable voice isolation mode on your phone itself. I do have a video walking you through this, which I'll link in the description to today's video, so try it out if you're having these issues. When enabled, this voice isolation feature isolates the microphones on your hearing aid to pick up your voice only and cut out that surrounding background noise, making it better for the person on the other end of the phone to be able to hear you. But I've got to say it's still not perfect, but you will see an improvement. And I also want to say, if you're watching this from Phonak HQ, if there is one thing, yes, one thing that I'm begging you to improve upon with these hearing aids, it's just one. It's this particular feature. Come on, please, help me. In terms of future-proofing, you will be pleased to hear that the Audeo Sphere Infinio is also Auracast ready, as I just alluded to. And Phonak have joined the likes of Resound, Signia, Starkey and Oticon and included the latest version of LE Audio in their technology, which I'm pretty sure is going to change your guys' listening experiences forever. In short, you'll see an improvement in the Bluetooth capabilities with your phone when it comes to streaming sound quality and its battery consumption. And that's whether you're listening to phone calls, music, and the radio or podcasts, all whilst keeping your phone in your pockets, giving you that truly hands-free experience that I was talking about. But that's not everything. Where this tech will really take off is in a public venue with a built-in Auracast transmitter. This new form of transmitter is specifically designed to work with newer LE audio technology and will send any signal directly to both of your hearing aids, such as if you head to a basketball game and want to hear the commentator, or if you walk into a train station and want to hear the train announcements, or even if you head to a place of worship and want to hear a sermon. Over the next few years, it's likely that we'll see public venues installing these Auracast transmitters, and Auracast broadcasted audio will replace the century-old loop systems built into public venues, allowing for multiple hearing aid users to simultaneously connect to audio in these public spaces, all with an improvement in sound quality and significantly lower battery consumption. And trust me, it's going to be a game changer, not just for those of you out there with hearing aids, but I predict this will be built into regular headphones too. Now, something worth noting is that whilst this is built into the Infinios, it isn't yet activated. This will all be done in the future with a simple and free firmware update. Does that matter? Well, no, not really, as this is so new in terms of technology that, as far as I'm aware, there are only 6 Auracast transmitters that have been installed globally, but I promise to update you as soon as it is. In my opinion, Phonak's MyPhonak app is one of the most intuitive out there to date, and can be as simple or as complicated as you like. Now, what I mean by that is if you want to simply use it to adjust the volume, mute your hearing aids, or change the program, then the home screen is perfect for you. However, if you really want to get into the weeds, then you can adjust the graphic equalizer, noise settings, and dynamic range of your hearing aids. The app itself has only had one new feature in this latest update to version 6.9, which is its Find My Hearing Aid feature. In practice, this means that if your hearing aid falls out or goes missing, the GPS on your smartphone will show you the last time that your phone and your hearing aids were together. So, if you've lost one, you can retrace your steps and you'll be able to find it. Now, there are a couple of things that I've come across in clinic that it's worth me mentioning. So, firstly, the app itself will ask for your permission to use your location services. You have to allow this, and it must be set to always allow. If you don't take that step, then it won't work, very simply. Secondly, I've also been assured that Phonak or Sonova doesn't have access to your location data, so don't panic, they will not be tracing your every movement. Now, it's worth me mentioning that I've had some patients report that it has excessively drained their phone battery having this feature activated, so as a result, they've turned the feature off. Interestingly, I've only had this with a couple of patients, so I'd love to know if you've had these hearing aids fitted and you've had this feature activated. Has it had any impact on your phone's battery life? Let me know in the comments beneath this video. I'll try and break this news to you gently. Quite disappointingly, there is no telecoil and no cross-compatibility with the Phonak Infinio Spheres, and I am a big fan of both. So if you're interested in the telecoil, then you'll have to stick with Phonak's Lumity family of hearing aids or look to one of their competitors. However, if you're interested in a cross system, then you can look to the standard Infinios, for those of you out there with single-sided deafness. In all honesty, the lack of a telecoil shouldn't be an issue going forwards with the introduction of LE Audio and Auracast. However, until we see the global rollout of those transmitters into public venues, and if you're used to utilizing a loop system, then these hearing aids may not be right for you. Saying that, I would still recommend giving these hearing aids a test drive if your main challenge is hearing in background noise. And if you're used to using a telecoil on your current technology, perhaps you can keep them in reserve for any time that you'd need them. I will always welcome developments in durability that minimize the number of hearing aid breakdowns that we see, and I'm delighted to say that Phonak have made what was their previous Life model their minimum standard when it comes to robustness and water protection, which is only rivaled by Starkey. Now, they've done this by adding additional microphone protection. They've coated the components with a Parylene coating, which I'm told is actually the same protection system that NASA uses on their spacecraft. And then with all of that, they have brutally tested this technology in the lab to ensure that it does what they promise, with a total of 135 different tests. These include a simulated sweat test representing 2 workouts a week for a 5-year period, a saltwater test, a seawater test, a chlorinated water test simulating 2 swims per week over a 5-year period as well, and then finally freshwater testing, performed in a pressurized container, testing down to a depth of 50 centimeters, 520 times. I don't really know what they could have done on top of that to test them more, and with the positive track record that the Lumity Lifes have had when it comes to waterproofing, I'm pretty confident that these won't fail on you with a splash of water. It's a little too early to know if this extensive testing works, but it certainly did with their Lumity Life hearing aids, and only time will tell if their efforts will pay their dividends. Phonak have been great at recognizing where hearing aid technology alone will struggle to overcome hearing challenges, and as a result, they have a range of accessories, such as their TV connector and their Roger range, such as the Roger On, Table Mic 2, Touchscreen Mic, Roger Select, and their Roger Neck Loop. If you're interested in more detail on Phonak's accessories, then check out this video, which covers which I think are the best that they've got out there. And I think you'll be especially interested in the Roger microphones, which are designed to boost your hearing in loud noise and over a distance. For example, you can place it in the middle of a table at a restaurant with friends, or at the opposite end of a conference table in a meeting. You can even clip it to the person speaking at a lecture, worship service, or any other social activity, and have their voice streamed directly to both of your ears. Now, I have to say that before you go out and buy these fantastic Phonak Infinio Spheres, you have to check out this video summarizing all of the other Phonak Infinio hearing aids.